Hey everyone, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to another episode of my live stream where I'm going to be bringing on guests live to talk about anything and everything from Next.js to React to Vue to design systems to anything you can imagine. And the last one last week with Natter was incredibly great. We had tons of great questions from y'all, and I'm going to continue doing these about 1 or 2 a week for the next probably 2 months. So there's going to be quite a few of those. As always, the format for this is going to be, I'll have a guest on, we'll chat about a topic or a few topics for 20 to 30 minutes maybe, and then we will, check out the chat and see what questions you all have and try to answer them as best we can. So today, I'm super excited to bring on Kati Frantz, who is a software engineer, very passionate about mentoring, teaching, and training others, and building developers and developer communities. So he works a lot with open source, and he's a core maintainer of a library called Tensei.js. And I first saw his work through one of his YouTube videos, and I was really blown away with the production quality of doing a screencast for video courses is really difficult, and doing a high quality, high production one is even more so. And the audio was good, the video was good, the pace at which he went was very good. So I'm excited to bring him on today and talk a little bit more about building online courses and just pick his brain a little bit. So with that, please give a warm welcome in the chat. How's it going?
Hey, it's great. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited to have you on today. There's so many things that we could talk about in the space of online courses and teaching people online, building communities. But maybe just to start things off first, if you want to maybe introduce yourself, give a little background, and let the people know what's going on.
Sure, sounds good. So my name is Frantz. I've been working as a developer for almost 7 years now. So I think I'm already getting old. So when I started out, I was, very alone. I think most of us are, no guidance, no introduction to the career. I didn't even know it was a career. I thought it was for fun. You just build stuff. So I, spent tons of time learning this thing, learning the technologies, used tons of resources online. And I really had this desire to pass on the knowledge, make it easier for people who want to get into the field, who want to learn what I learned and not go through the stress that I went through. And that's how I got started creating courses. I think I released a ton of YouTube videos then. That was about 4 years ago. And it was really exciting. People loved it. So I went ahead to create a couple of courses on Udemy. And since then, I've kind of interacted with people one-on-one, talked about their careers, talked about their goals, why they want to do this, their families, the things that motivate them. And I've kind of been invested into seeing that they get what they want with as little difficulties as possible, contributing in whatever way I can, technology-wise, and kind of introducing them to the career as best as I can. So that's really all I've been about for the past few years. I've contributed a ton to open source because I kind of really feel like I should be giving back as much as I can. I've also spoken at events, or also spoken at local communities here in Lagos, Nigeria. That's where I am currently. And it's been so much fun. And every single day, I just try to find out what can I do more. And if you have any ideas, definitely let me know. And I'm here for you. So yeah, that's me.
That's amazing. And it's interesting you mentioned how long you have been making YouTube videos too, because I was going back and watching some of your older YouTube videos, and you've been putting out content for years, right? And like, as you said, when you started, you were kind of just on your own trying to figure out where to take this. And I think one of the things that's really interesting as I watched some of your older videos to now your most latest is just the progression and growth as you've learned more, you've understood how to really nail those little details. And a lot of those little details people miss or they don't even understand make that really incredible experience when you're watching a YouTube video, you're watching an online course, like even things like having the font size big enough or good audio, good recording quality, making sure your code's like on enough of the screen. Like these are little things that it seems like you've learned and understand how to really nail that down. I'm just curious, like, what that progression has been like for you and like how you learn things over time.
Yeah, it's been really amazing. I think when I look back at my mistakes, I sometimes wonder what were you thinking. But yeah, I guess most of the time you have to get through those stages to get feedback from people. I remember my very first YouTube video. I titled it "Build a Social Network with Laravel and Vue.js," and I was really excited about it. I recorded it, and by then I think Operator Mono was just released, so I was pretty pumped. I got myself a license, and I made sure I used the most indented fonts, italic fonts ever, because it was so cool. And then I used a really brown background, and then I created a video and I posted. And the first comment was like, "Yeah, I can't see anything. I'm just enjoying your voice." And I had recorded about six, so I still had to publish them. I really didn't know how bad that was till a couple of people commented. And also it was 2014, I think. I can't remember exactly. But then when I created the social network in the tutorials, I kind of mentioned we had to set up gender, and I set up male and female in the application we're building. And the things you build, you definitely have to make sure that you are not sidelining a specific group of people. You have to make sure that you're being conscious with everyone's feelings and things like that. And I didn't know that at the beginning, and the comments were flooded like, "Hey, this is 2015, gender is not male and female anymore." And yeah, those are different things that I learned from my first videos. And then over time I got to realize that, hey, your microphone, the things when you record, you kind of have to make sure there's no noise. I didn't even know what a pop filter was, so I got to learn about that. I got to get my first pop filter used with my first snowball microphone. That was really exciting. And tons and tons of stuff, tons and tons of feedback. I didn't know what video dimensions were. I didn't know what's HD. I didn't know what's full HD, but I got to learn all of that. And I think one thing that really boosted the knowledge that I had in creating online courses was when I decided to move to Udemy, because there's a certain amount of quality that you have to give out in order for your course to be published. So that's when I learned about, hey, you can get a better mic. You can use this screen recording software. You can use this to actually make your audio better even after you've recorded it. And I learned tons and tons. And yeah, that's basically how I've grown. And right now, I think I feel pretty confident. So I actually started creating videos where I get to show myself. And that's also been a learning process. I should definitely be releasing some videos soon. And it's going to be very weird because I've never shown myself online. But yeah, so that's the current next stage of my online creation learning process.
I feel like you touched on so many good things there that people just don't realize that goes into content creation, like how many things you have to learn. Just like people don't see the effort and the grit and the research that goes into a YouTube video and how much work that takes. And especially, like, it's already hard enough to do like a screen recording and a screencast, but then to put yourself on camera and to prepare an environment. Like, I really like your background with, like, the nice subtle, like, warm light. I think you're doing a great job there. Like, I've got my like Bristol LED light back here that I haven't done anything with yet. But yeah, like getting this whole space set up is like a whole nother thing. And then even like mentally preparing yourself to be able to be on screen. You're like, okay, like what clothes am I going to wear? Like I'm probably going to have to do 10, 15 takes because I stumble over my words quite a bit. It's quite a process. And yeah, I saw that you had 6 courses on Udemy, and I think it said over 65,000 students that you've taught, which is absolutely incredible. I'm sure that feels very validating to you. I'm kind of curious what your opinion is on Udemy versus YouTube versus, building your own video platform or hosting things on your own site. Like, what do you think about that?
Yeah, sure. So I've definitely had experience in all of these. The one thing that Udemy gives you at first, or maybe I should start with YouTube. I think YouTube is an amazing platform. It gives you an opportunity to reach a ton of people, it kind of puts you there, and you're almost sure that if you have interesting content, people wouldn't be limited by blogs or limited by search indexing or things like that. They can find your content. You can share on Twitter, and people will just watch, right? And I
Mhm.
think it's a really good place to start if you're getting started creating content online. Posting on YouTube is definitely the first way to go. I think that would be a really interesting way to, number one, get feedback on your setup, get people interested in your content, get feedback on what you can do to make your setup better, your content better, and things like that. And then, if you want to start selling or making some money from the courses that you're creating, there are choices that you could go with. I think Rob got started by self-publishing, and I'll talk about that in a second. But if you go with the Udemy route, then there's a couple of things that you're giving up. Number one, you're giving up your marketing power because you're giving Udemy the power to market for you. And that's kind of comforting because you don't have to worry about anything, just creating your content. And
Mhm.
then number two, you are kind of giving a share to Udemy because they are hosting those courses for you, and they are bringing most of the audience that they already have on the platform, which means it is not your audience per se. You can communicate with them, but you can't hold them and do whatever you like. So it's not like a newsletter where you can have them and send them 10 emails a year or something like that. There's restrictions, there's things that you have to follow because you're under Udemy's policies. So those are a couple of things that you're giving up. But the fact that you don't have to market your courses on your own is really amazing. The fact that you have an audience that is already waiting, I think Udemy's search is really great, and Udemy's algorithm is automatically going to try to present your new course in front of thousands of people. The fact that you don't even have to worry about that is also amazing.
Mhm.
But yeah, you should know the things that you're giving up in trade of the facilitations that you're getting from Udemy. So yeah, it was a really good place to start because I didn't. One second. One second.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because I haven't published a course on Udemy, but I've seen kind of the trade-offs that some people make around, do I want to host something on a platform where they take ownership of all of that marketing versus trying to do kind of my own marketing as well? And like you said, like the big trade-off to me is getting that free marketing or that free advertising from Udemy, especially when you're getting started and getting put onto a platform that's going to help promote your content to other people. I think that's huge. And I feel like when I'm recommending people, I'm usually saying, do whatever you can do to get your content in the eyes of viewers and get that to stick and build that audience. So if you have to do a course on Udemy and a videos on YouTube and a newsletter or a blog, like having multiple channels is still definitely a good thing. And from my experience, the organic reach of YouTube is really, really good. Like I think it is so underestimated just how many people are actually on YouTube and searching for things. And when I look at like the analytics on my videos, it seems like the majority of people aren't coming because I tweeted about it or because I sent it to somebody. It's people finding it through YouTube search. So it's pretty impressive. Welcome to everybody who's joining us in the chat. We're really excited to have y'all here. Thanks so much for joining. Good vibes, good vibes, good vibes. um, how's it going? Did you get it figured out?
Yeah, I just heard an alarm. I needed to make sure no one was hurt. I was scared.
Oh
All
no.
right. Thank you guys so much for waiting. I think we were talking about Udemy. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the next option for sharing your course online would be going the self-publishing route.
Mhm.
And the advantage going that route is the fact that you get to keep everything. You get to keep your audience. You get to. Whew. 1 second, let me catch my breath.
Oh no worries. I'm glad that everything's good. You had to quickly run away. One thing I can transition to, we can talk about a little bit. I'll just give you a minute to relax for a second. An interesting topic to me for content creators and for people building online courses is how you repurpose your content. because you spend all this time researching and planning and wanting to make just the optimal quality content online. And if you put it on the one video, then you're really missing out on that opportunity to then make a blog post with it, or build your audience and send it through a newsletter. Basically get that content in front of as many people's eyeballs or ears as possible, and refining that process for, starting as a tweet and then making a blog post and then doing a video, or whatever your pipeline looks like, is really important, I think, for people creating content online, so that they can get more output with less work. Like if you spend 6 months building this amazing course, you want to share your journey along the way so that people can be inspired, and they know that most importantly, they know that you're working on it. So they get updates, whether that's through a newsletter or something like that. I'm curious if you've done stuff like that before, or what your thoughts are on kind of reusing content.
Yeah, sure. I think if you're starting out as a content creator and you know absolutely nothing about this, it would definitely come to your mind, and you would think of ways that you can repurpose and redistribute that content, so you have to do less work. I think the first encounter I had with that was when people requested for subtitles for my videos, and at that point I was trying to write a blog article for the videos I created, so that I can share with people that prefer reading instead of videos. And it was really hard. But then people requested for subtitles. So I used ref.com to automatically generate subtitles for my Vimeo videos. And then the subtitles came in text format. I was like, that's a blog post. And I was like, why didn't I think of this? And then I kind of spent a few minutes editing the subtitles, putting things structured, and then I got a blog post. So that's what introduced me to, hey, you can take content and redistribute it into different sizes, into different formats, and make it more available. So if I think there are new tools right now that can take your video or your audio and then automatically transcribe it, and then it would be easier for you to transform that into a blog post, right? And I think there are also tools that would do the same thing for a blog post. They would turn it into an audio, and that would sort of feel like a podcast for someone who's visiting your blog. So I've also had experience with that. And then lately I've been trying to go into different social media. And what I do is I take a video of mine from maybe 3 years ago, and then I just watch it. And then I try to pick one or two things that I find really interesting. And then I just transform that into a tweet, and then I tweet it out, and people get to like it, right?
Yeah.
So like at that moment, I didn't think about what to tweet, but what I created some time ago was very useful for me to share. So I've definitely had experience with that. And the more you create content, the easier it is for you to redistribute when you find different ways to transform the content.
I feel like I need to do a better job about that too, because I've made courses, but I haven't really taken like snippets of parts of those courses like you talked about and repurpose them and use them in other places. I think that's a good takeaway for me to try to do better about, is to dice up some of those old videos and repurpose some of that content. One thing I think is really cool I was checking out that you were working on was the Deploying Next.js project and course. I think there's a lot there. You want to just give maybe a high level overview for people who haven't heard of it or they want to hear more about it and what you're working on there?
I have a ton. Did you say Deploying Next.js?
Oh, sorry. Node.js. I say Next.js so much every day that I interchange Node.js and Next.js. I think things are, don't even get me started on Nuxt.js. Like there's too many things named way too similar. Deploying Node.js.
The reason I was shocked when you said Next.js is because I've always had it in my head, and I was like, how did he know? But yeah, thank God you meant Nodes, right? So I've been using Node.js for a very long time, and it was really exciting. So I tried to deploy it, and it was very challenging, right? And I thought it can be easier. Now, even when I succeeded in deploying Node.js, I realized that I didn't understand what I was doing, because they would tell you run sudo this, and sudo that and nginx this, but I wouldn't really understand exactly what I was, doing. And I said, hey, once I, spend years and years doing this stuff, I realized, hey, I have a really good understanding of this thing. I know exactly what is going where and why this is here. So I decided to write a book. And I think I did that last year. And it was really, really amazing. I think that's when I started my newsletter, because I was like, hey, if you subscribe, I can give you the book for free. And then since then, I've always been sending very valuable content to everybody that subscribed. So yeah, I actually kind of wanted it to be like a career path for people interested in cloud engineering. So I get started by talking about, what is the cloud and why you should be interested in the cloud, and explain kind of how the internet works, and when you're running commands in your terminal, what's going on, how you're connecting over SSH, how it works, how the exchange of keys is going on. And I think that's really interesting because it kind of gives you an understanding of how most of the things that we use every day work, even SSL in the browser. And then I went ahead to really take a practical hands-on approach. We start by deploying a very tiny HTML site, and then we go to a simple HTML and JavaScript site with CSS and other assets. And then we go to a single page application. And then I teach you how to optimize your server for different types of sites like the ones I mentioned. And then we go to one that has a database. And then we go to ones that has a database, a backend, a front end, and a caching layer. And then we go to one that has a worker database. Like, it just gets more complex. And then I end the book by talking about how you would transition to horizontal scaling. I think we actually covered a lot about vertical and horizontal scaling. If you had, an architecture where you had 8 servers with maybe 2 load balancers, 2 database servers, and 2 workers, how would you set that up? And then finally, I said, hey, if you are interested in cloud engineering, then the next step for you to go would be Kubernetes from this point. And that's how I closed the book. So I've really wanted to take some time and kind of transform that into a video course that people would actually enjoy and learn more about cloud engineering. So that's probably something that might happen this year, but my focus this year has kind of drifted, which we can talk about later. But yeah, so that's deploying Node.js. I think if you read the book, for anyone who's watching, you would get tons of free content, valuable knowledge that has taken me to this point in my career.
One really cool thing you talked about that is super valuable for content creators is giving some sort of free content as an incentive to build your audience. So for you, it was putting it behind your newsletter sign up, and you wanted people to join your newsletter so that they're updated when you release new things that are paid courses. And giving away something for free as that incentive, I think works really well. It's worked well for me too. And wow, it sounds like you covered a lot of stuff in that book. That's really awesome, especially because for people who are just getting into that space, they're trying to understand how to do things Node.js, and there's so many different ways, so many different tutorials, so many different videos. It's nice to have kind of a comprehensive package that covers things more from start to finish, and then also provides that handoff too, where it's like, okay, now you want to do Kubernetes, you can go to that next point in your career. Yeah, I am curious to dive more into what the focus will be this year. What cool things you're working on or have in progress.
Yeah, so this year I thought about, everything I've done in the teaching space. And I realized there's one thing that I've always assumed, because for out of my 6 courses on Udemy, I think just one of them is a beginner's course, and it still assumes that you have some knowledge. And so I realized that I have, been focused on coding. And what I want to do this year is kind of shift my focus to engineering. I think you've been a software engineer for many years, and you're working at one of the best companies we have today, Vercel. And you can testify that when you're working as an engineer, it's just about 50 to 60% of the time writing code. The rest of the time is, spent talking about the business, how you can, align your goals with the business, how you can contribute to the business as an engineer to see that the business makes money, how you get to collaborate with different team members with different specializations and, push the business forward. And I realized that tons and tons of people do not know this, right? So I kind of thought it would be really helpful to move my focus not not just completely getting rid of code, but telling people, hey, you don't just need to be a coder, you need to be an engineer. And an engineer needs to be able to fit into a process, a moving machine, so that the business can function correctly. So I would be releasing courses on my YouTube absolutely for free. And the target would be, hey, let's start from buying a domain, and we'll talk about exactly what domains are, exactly why they're needed, and how to get them. And then we'll move up to the deployment. And during that process, I will talk about how you talk with founders, how you talk with the CEO of the company, how you talk with project management, how you collaborate with designers, different people in the software development lifecycle, different stakeholders, how they all come together to see a successful product. So of course, there's going to be tons of coding stuff. I was preparing the content yesterday for the course, and I just used the Next.js. Of course, it was really amazing. So tons and tons of content about that, not just learning how to code, but really learning how to be an engineer while writing amazing code.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think part of engineering and software engineering programming, whatever you want to call it, the part that is missed the most, which you talked about, is just the missing pieces that are not coding. It's the communication values, how you effectively communicate. It's working with your teammates. It's working with stakeholders. It's collaborating across the business. And it's interesting too that traditional, I guess, university or college-based educations, they really dropped the ball on this. Boot camps have gotten better about doing this and being giving a more practical, real world overview of what it's like to have a job in software engineering. But then there's also the self-taught route where there's less content for self-taught developers on those things. Like when you're watching these self-taught courses, it's mostly just how can I build XYZ application with XYZ language or framework or whatever. And I think that type of content, basically the breaking into software engineering style content, there's a large shortage of that right now. There's a few good things out there, but way, way, way too little. So I think you could definitely get some good traction with those style of videos. Mm-hmm. And also too, like you said, then you're going to have time too with your Node.js book where you can kind of repurpose some of that stuff. You've already done all the work. You've already wrote it. You've already published it. And now it's I just have to translate that to a different medium, really, and take advantage of all the work that I've already done and get to use it somewhere else, which I think is really honest. One thing that I want to talk about that I think is interesting is that when I did my first course and then my second course, even on my first one, I did a lot of things wrong. So many things wrong. Like we talked about earlier, the font size thing, I did that exact same thing. Some of my first programming YouTube videos where I have my screen up, top comments like, hey, can you make the font bigger? I'm like, I know. So I definitely made a lot of mistakes there. And even in my second course, there was mistakes that I need to make too. It's kind of like a continual work in progress to me. I'm curious what your thoughts are on some of maybe the better courses that you've seen, or where you get inspiration from trying to deliver maybe not the perfect course, but the best online education experience that you can. Like what things do you see that others are doing that I know I see things I'm like, oh, I need to do that. That really was more engaging for the video or the blog post or whatever. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think I definitely relate to, creating courses and seeing the mistakes and kind of, I could have avoided this. So I definitely look around and see the courses that people create. And first of all, screencasting, someone I've learned a lot from is Jeffrey Way. He's on Laracast, and his screencasts are so perfect, and I still can get to that quality till today. But he's really good at screencasting. I learned a lot of the tools that I use from him. Basically making sure that your screen is communicating directly to the person. The person can kind of feel that they're there with you. And a lot of things that you do, the color of your terminal or the fonts that you're using, the font size of the editor, things like that. So you kind of picture someone with you there. What would the person ask you? I always think about that, and I I can hear the voice telling me, you like this font so much, but I don't see it, right?
Mhm.
You like this so much, I don't see it. So when I watch Jeffrey's videos, it's like he summarized all of that, and he just does really perfect screencast. So I learn a lot from him from there. And I also took a couple of Udacity courses. And what I realized that is that they have a really practical drive, or a really practical way of putting their courses. So sometimes when I have a course idea, I still go there and I check out their curriculum and I see, hey, what are they doing? What would they do if they were creating such a course? Why? Because they kind of give you a project-based approach. You have about 6 projects to complete, and at every level of that project, there's someone that helps you review the content, gives you valuable feedback that can help you grow as the person going through the course. And then you have to go through a couple of those projects, which is what actually takes time to complete. And I think it's really awesome, especially when they're there to give you feedback. So that's definitely something that I'm planning to include in all my courses, something that I'm definitely including right now in the courses I'm creating. So you're going to have to like real world practical projects. I think I'm creating a free course for people that want to start in software engineering, because I have tons and tons of questions on Twitter and I send them somewhere, but I still feel like it would be better if I could give them my course. And so I'm creating something for beginners absolutely free. And that course has about 7 designs on Figma, and you would have to implement each of those designs fully responsive. And then I have the solutions for each and every one of them. And then once you implement and your peers give you feedback, and then you get to watch the final version that I did, I think it's really, really going to enrich your learning. So those are, I think, the 3 things that I would definitely be implementing in my courses. And I think if you keep that in mind, you're anyone who's watching and thinking of creating content, it would definitely improve your content too.
Yeah, the feedback piece there is really interesting, because I think a lot of times people who are taking self-led or self-taught type courses where you're just watching a video and then it's kind of up to you to actually execute and do something. I've seen the cohort-based courses where you're learning with other people, or even courses where there's assignments, which is just like traditional learning you would do in school, right? Where you're going to have some quiz at the end and get graded on it. Having that feedback loop that you would get from a grade or from a teacher, I feel like is really critical and missing from a lot of programming education online, because then people don't know if their output is good or not. And one really interesting thing to check out is GitHub actually has this like GitHub Learning or GitHub community style brand to it, where you can have people in your class. I think, GitHub Classroom is what it's called. You can have people in your classroom, and then they can submit pull requests that allow you to review it and give feedback there. So it kind of streamlines that review process, where you give them some assignment, you say, hey, implement this Figma file with this responsive design, submit your PR here, and then I will give you personal feedback as part of this course. That resonates with so many people, I think, too, because they're getting that one-on-one interaction with you, the course creator, like the subject matter expert. Here is what they think about what I've done, whether it's positive or things that I need to improve. So I'm evaluating trying that out for the next course that I do, something similar to that, where there's more connection, I think, with the people that are taking the courses, maybe smaller course size, really focused on a smaller number of people, and more authentic back and forth feedback. So that might be something to check out too, the GitHub Classroom thing, for automating some of that review part that you want to add.
Yeah, definitely checking it out. Thanks for sharing.
Another thing that's interesting to me is that you've done a bunch of different courses on a bunch of different topics. And I think why that's interesting is because as software engineers or programmers or whatever we want to label ourselves, learning how to learn is the ultimate skill, right? Learning how to learn new things is what can really take you far in your career. And regardless of what new technology or framework comes out, you can still stay relevant and understand how to learn these new things. So seeing that you've done, content on Laravel and testing and Vue and React and Mongo, and then even new stuff that's less programming focused, but more of just the career behind it. what's interesting to me is I know that when I do this, teaching people actually helps me learn it better myself. So the process of reviewing and then trying to take something that's really complex and make it simple enough that people understand, especially beginners, makes me in turn actually learn the content way better. So it's almost like a learning hack to where teaching people is actually making me better at the content myself too. Is that how you feel too?
Yeah, I definitely feel that way. I've been in most situations when I'm doing a lot of research, to solidify my knowledge on a piece of content, so that I can teach it. I find myself discovering things I didn't know about. I remember something so clear to me is when I was creating my first Vue.js course, and I was teaching, I was doing research for a lesson, and ended up using this. it I started thinking, what's going on behind the scenes? Why does this just work? And that's how I just kept going down the rabbit hole. And I read a lot of content talking about why this is this when you're using Vue.js. And it was so amazing. Sometimes I'm like, wow, this is so much insight. And I didn't even know I'm going to be learning as much as I am just by creating a course. So that's why I think I've seen a lot of content online on Twitter right now saying, hey, the best way to learn something is to teach it. So go ahead and write a blog post, maybe share a video. For everybody right now that I'm mentoring, I have about a dozen of them. They know that, and they're like, hey friends, I hate writing. And I'm like, yeah, you just do it.
It
You,
sucks.
either you either do a video where you're going to be talking the contents and it's there moving in your brain and you're learning it, or you write it down and then I get to review it and then you publish it and get feedback from people. So it's definitely something I tell all of my mentees to do. They have to do it. They submit, I review, and then they post it online. So it's really, really a really huge part, a really great way to grow as a developer. So I can definitely resonate to that.
Yeah, writing is hard. Like it never gets easier. I have an idea for a topic that I want to dive more into, and I write like the title and I start to write the first sentence and it's just like immediately my brain just goes blank. And the first sentence is like the first paragraph is always the absolute hardest for me for some reason. Like, because you want it to be catchy, you want to have a good hook, you want people to want to learn the material you're teaching. But the first paragraph is always so difficult. So I usually start, like I write the body, I write the bulk of things, and then I go back at the end. I'm like, okay, now that I've wrote this, like what is going to make people actually want to read the rest of it? But I think people getting into teaching online don't understand that nobody enjoys the writing process. Like even people who are professional writers, it still is not great. Like it's still a struggle, and you have to be accepting of that or willing of that pain in a lot of ways and push through to get to that great content. Because I'm sure you've talked with people that you're mentoring, when you get the content online, you're building this personal space on the internet for people to stumble onto you, to learn more from you, and most importantly, just to help other people. I think one of the hidden benefits that people don't realize, I'm sure you've realized this in teaching people online, is that 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you get a random message or an email for somebody that says, thank you so much. Like I could not figure this out and your content really helped me out here. It's a very gratifying and fulfilling thing to be able to help people for something that you created, many years ago.
Yeah. Oh my God, that is so true. I think I've cried a couple of times because of this. I had someone message me from Bali. I still don't know where that is on Earth. I had someone message me from India. Someone from Pakistan, from so many random countries, and they're like, "Hey, I just want to invite you to my home because I learned your course 4 years ago, and right now I'm working as a software engineer." And it was so amazing because I had watched 10 other courses before that and I just couldn't break through. But then, yes, your course did it for me. Thank you. Here's my wife, here's my child. And it's so overwhelming. It's so amazing. I think that's really the reason why I have stuck through the whole process, no matter what happens, because I see that even though it's just code and a screen, it's changing real lives and it's touching real people with real problems. And I think that's something I can't exchange for anything. So even when I create courses and someone reaches out to me and, hey, I can't afford your course, and I'm like, just take it. Just take it and just, do the best you can. Just make your life better, because that's really the pay for me. So I can definitely relate to that.
Man, that is incredible. That has to be the best feeling in the world, to hear from these people who are so grateful for the work that you've done, to feel so, validated in what you're doing and helping people out. That's amazing. I know that when I hear from people just wherever they're at in the world, it's like it always blows my mind how small the world is when somebody in another country is watching my video or leaving feedback. It really feels like you're connected with those people in the community, or those people who are learning from you. It's such a good video, or such a good feeling to help those people out. Hi to everybody in the chat. Lots of people are super excited about your background too. You're really nailing it. That's so romantic. People are falling in with their coffee. People are going to join in. And hey to everybody, thanks so much for joining. We really appreciate y'all coming to chat, coming to hang out. Yeah, this has been awesome. I'm really enjoying this conversation, because I don't get a chance to talk to as many people who create content online. And it's really crazy, because we share a lot of the same struggles, a lot of the same successes on how we produce things, how we share it with the world. And there's always so much that I can learn from talking with other people who are in this space. Like, I've already picked up a few tips from you that I can go back and on my next course or on my next video, I can try to make things just a little bit better. And that part of it is so amazing, because then when you compound that and you do it over and over again, your end product and the quality of the content you're making just gets so good. And that's why over the course of years, you really see that progression for people, especially yourself. I've seen just teaching online, putting out really, really high quality stuff.
Yeah, this has definitely been amazing. Like you're mentioning, I think it's definitely something that I think we should, do more often. Learning from other content creators is highly undervalued. I remember the first time I saw your content, when I saw the Next.js course, I was like, I was about to do a Next.js course, but then I saw how amazing your course was. The first thing that attracted me was the design, and many people underestimate the amount of hours and tweaking and touches that go into creating the perfect design. And I think just your attention to detail was really what made me subscribe to your newsletter, follow you on Twitter, and just be consistent with everything that you're doing online. I've definitely learned a lot from you, and I'm happy to hear that there were some things that you could learn from me too. So if you guys haven't checked out his courses, I shouldn't be telling you this, but Rob is amazing. There's tons and tons of things. It's so gentle, it's so normal, it's so real, and I think I've learned a lot just by watching them. So thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. That was very kind. I try to make it as as real world, just hanging out, chatting with me as I can, because if like you said earlier, like if somebody was sitting right beside me, that's the type of learning environment I would want, like somebody pair programming with me, or somebody joining along, trying to learn more. This is an interesting comment. Can you give us a tour of the setup in the back from Allie, who's my wife? She's joining along live. She likes the background.
Yeah, I could try, but my camera been moved. But yeah, I kind of put a lot of stuff here, stuff that I'm afraid to lose. Like I think I have my Elgato case here. I have my spare camera battery. I have my spare charger. So these are things that I search for all the time, and I don't know where they are. So I just here. And then the books I'm currently reading, I just put them on the shelf here, so that when I see them in my videos, I feel bad and just. And then the background, I had a friend do this for me. It's I can't remember the name, but it's used by photographers, and I think they said it looks really good in videos. And then the lights, I have a lot of these. Then there's just
I like the light a lot.
Yeah, I think I have about 8 of them. They're just not on. But yeah, so I'm not the designer, but I kind of had a couple of ideas, like the shelf, to keep my stuff.
The,
Yeah.
the wall backdrop that you said your friend helped with, that looks so good, because when I look at mine, which is like just it's like as white as you can get. I really want to do something back here, some kind of color, spice it up a little bit. Like really all I have is just the shelf back here where every video I switch out what vinyl record I have out there just to keep people on their toes. So I got 21 Pilots back there right now, but yeah, it's the backdrop and the lighting is like a whole nother ordeal in getting something that's kind of artistic or feels like a style that you like to present, because that's kind of like your identity in your videos. People always ask me, they're like, who is that weird bobblehead guy who's on your shelf back there? And it's like, it's a former basketball coach for one of our, like the college I went to. So it's like just a random thing that kind of sparks conversation there.
Nice. Thank you very much for being interested. I feel like I didn't waste my time doing all of that. So thank you guys so much.
That's going to look great too in all the videos where you're getting behind the camera and kind of putting yourself out there, which I know is very difficult to like we talked about earlier, like all the work that it takes to prepare and the kind of the vulnerability, I guess, too, of putting your face to our name and putting it online. One thing though that's interesting with that, I was reading a lot about kind of the risk and reward of that, where you're putting all of your work behind your brand and you're exposing yourself, you're being vulnerable, you're letting people know about your life, because there's really like this connection between you and the people who are watching, and you want people to feel like you want to be friends with all the people who watch your content. You want them to know about you, but it's tough because you don't want to, it feels like you're exposing yourself to the world and you're being vulnerable. You're letting people into your home with your videos. And it's tricky because giving that up and being vulnerable and letting people join you in that journey actually has so many benefits, because people get to see you, they get to learn about you, they get to understand what it's like. And then, eventually when COVID is over and we all get to meet and we all get to hang out, then I can come to Nigeria and we could all hang out. Like, it'd be so awesome. Did you freeze? Think you might have froze. That's okay. I will pop you out and then pop you back in. That is Vercel there. So I got this neon light in the mail, and it's pretty cool. I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet. It has really bad flickering in the lights, but for now it's like the hair light, I guess is what they call it in the technical term, but it kind of like puts the light around your head. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it yet, but we'll see. Thank you. Really appreciate that. And I'm glad you enjoy my voice. I tried to make it as smooth as possible. So it looks like he might have had a drop off on internet, which is unfortunate, but happens due to the nature of live streaming. I know that I've had a few that pop out. Yeah. Oh wait, he's back. Okay. I thought we might've lost you on internet there.
Oh yeah. I think I touched something when I stood up.
I had a live, so I've had 2 catastrophic live streams. I had one where I was muted for the first 20 minutes and I didn't look at the chat, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to redo this whole thing because nobody heard anything I was saying. That one was really bad. I never want to do that again. And then the second one, there was a huge storm in my React 2025 course, like one of the last videos. There was a huge storm and it completely knocked out my power, like right when I was in the middle of a live stream. So the video just kind of abruptly ends. And the next video I was like, oh yeah, by the way, there was a huge power outage. And that's the end of that video. So it definitely happens. What's the rod on the right where the blue light is? That is a Philips Hue light, and allows you to do like RGB colors or white or black. So I really enjoy it. It looks cool. There's like a little bit of aliasing with the colors, but it gives a little flavor to the back. I like the warmth though of the light on yours. It's nice. It's very like inviting.
Yeah, and I had to choose because I think I have the same Philips Hue light, and I had to decide between looking techie or looking romantic, like someone said in the comments. And yeah, I went with romantic.
It's good though. Yeah,
Thank
you're in
you.
Lagos, right?
Yes, I'm currently in Lagos, Nigeria, but I'm not Nigerian. I just love Nigeria.
Nice. Yeah, the community there seems to be growing like crazy. I feel like I see people on Twitter all the time and just sharing
Yeah.
amazing content, doing amazing things. Like, what's that like?
Yeah, it's so amazing because we are in a place. Nigeria is a country that has really not so good leaders, so it's kind of like opportunities aren't there.
Hmm.
But we have tons and tons of really talented, hardworking people, and they are just every day I look at the community and I see people surpassing all sorts of limitations and pushing themselves further and further just to get to where they want to get to, no matter the challenges. So that's very humbling, and I think that's one of the reasons I really love being here. But yeah, I've met tons and tons of really amazing engineers, really amazing technology enthusiasts here in the local community in Nigeria. No matter the difficulties, they keep pushing forward, and I think that's a little different from the setting where you have everything, you have all that you want, all that you need. So it's been very humbling.
Yeah, I'm constantly impressed by the determination, grit, and just how much I see from people in Nigeria. Just the content online, like you guys are doing incredible stuff. So really, like huge shout out to all of you doing incredible
Yeah.
work. Just checking the chat to see what questions are in here. This is a random question. What is your favorite song to play on guitar? I got my guitar in the back. That's a really hard question. I like to play 90s kind of alternative rock, like Matchbox 20, if you're into that. I like the older music. I was born in 93, so I have a affinity for that style of music. I don't know. What type of music do you like?
Me?
Yeah,
Oh,
all sorts.
I love different varieties, but I would say the one that I roll with every day when I'm working is dubstep music, especially the instrumentals, because they're not crowded with voices, but then the beats are just so amazing. But I also listen to a lot of local music from my country, which so many people do not know about. But it's really one of the favorite musics I love listening to, because there's French, there's English, and then there's the language just for us, for my country, and then they
Yeah,
put all that together to create amazing music. It's called Mboko, but don't Google it. It's so different.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. I love hearing multilingual music, and it always makes me really jealous because I want to be more like bilingual or trilingual or whatever.
Mm,
I want to learn more languages myself. It's on my longer term list of I want to learn a bunch of new languages so that when I go travel to places, I can talk to the people there in their native language. Yeah, that's awesome. One thing I thought that was really cool on your site is you're a huge fan of anime.
Oh my god, I love anime. My girlfriend, she when I start talking about anime, she just excuses me and she just pays attention because it's just amazing. I've been watching anime since I was born, I think, and it just keeps going on and keeps getting better. Do you watch
I
anime?
I'm a total anime novice. I think you mentioned like some of the shows you like, and one of them was like Dragon Ball Z. I did used to watch Dragon Ball Z like when I was younger, and it was awesome. I was big into like Dragon Ball Z, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all those type of things. But I haven't really stayed up to date on the newer anime that people are really into and talk about a lot. So I need to get into that. What recommendations do you have for complete
Um,
novice myself?
Yeah, I would say anime today is much more creative. So one thing I see many anime fans talking about online is they said you can't cry when watching anime, and then they play a small clip. They said you can't be emotional. They said you can't learn lessons in life, and then they play a small clip. So it's much more a reflection of actual life. So I would say you should try out Attack on Titans.
Okay.
It talks about humanity and our great desire to survive. It's amazing if you just give it the time. Just give it 20 minutes. Just watch the first episode, and see how it goes from there. It's world's best anime. literally everybody agrees. So I think you would have fun. It's sad, but it's amazing. It kind of lets you reflect on humanity as a species. So that's amazing.
Nice. I'll have to check that out. Have you seen Death Note? I haven't. Is that an anime that's really popular? I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, it's an anime that was really popular in 2006, I think. Yes, I've watched it over and over and over, and it's amazing. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Well, I guess I have my homework cut out for me. I'm gonna have to research some new anime, some Naruto fans in the chat, research some new anime, and also take away some of the suggestions that you had for repurposing content and how you're delivering content for, making it interactive and giving people feedback. I want to be, mindful of your time. We're about to reach an hour. So thank you to everybody in the chat who was leaving questions. Really appreciate everybody joining in live. Super grateful to have you all here. And thank you so much for joining today. This was super fun. We had a ton of great questions, lots of good topics. I feel like I learned a bunch about online courses, and it was awesome to hear about your journey and what you're working on right now. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. It was awesome.
Yeah, and thank you so much for organizing this. I've definitely learned a lot. It feels so amazing to speak to someone that you've been following online for years and learning a lot from them and actually learning more in person. Thank you very much for organizing this. And thank you very much for everyone who joined the live stream. I'm so grateful, you taking out time out of your day to come and hear us talk and ask questions. It's been really amazing having you guys. I'm super grateful for you, Lee, inviting me, and super grateful for everyone who joined the chat and asked me for a tour and things like that. Thank you guys so much.
Amazing. Well, awesome. With that, we're going to conclude the stream today. Thank you, everybody, for joining in, and stay tuned. In 2 days, I'm doing another stream about the future of the front end. So check out my Twitter, where I'll be posting a link to the live stream. So thank you all.